Hello, this is the first ASEAN Movie Pulse Talks of the year. No one probably remembers what number this is because the last one was so far before, but happily we have a lot of more people this time for the first session of the year. And we have decided to talk about some of our favorite movies that we saw and that were released in 2021. So to begin with, let's start with Tom and Ninja Girl. Tom?
Yeah, so my favorite film of last year was Yu Iri's Ninja Girl. The film follows a civil servant called Miyu who lives with her dying grandfather who's very sick. And they're both very much against this government movement called the Immigration Elimination Ordinance, which is very subtly titled. And they discover that fraudulent activity within the government is what has led to this controversial Immigration Act being passed. And it's then when Miyu's grandfather tells her that she's the last in a long lineage of ninjas, and she decides to use that information to try and become a ninja in order to take down a corrupt local government. It's about as weird as it sounds, but in a great way. Part of the humor, and it is a very funny movie, part of the humor of it is that it's presented so seriously, like it's so deadpan, the comedy. There's lots of very like flat, perfectly framed shots of something you're not quite sure if you're supposed to be laughing at it or not, especially some of the conversations between Miyu and her grandfather, due to the fact that he's very ill. But yeah, I mean, it's a great little, very small scale sort of political satire, just about corrupt government. Even though it's supposed to be kind of targeting the incompetence, at least in Yu Iri's opinion, when we did the interview with him last year, of the current Japanese government, just the fact that every sort of official figure in this film is portrayed as a bit of a buffoon, but they're still kind of getting away with passing this Immigration Act that's very sort of targeting. It's very pushing. I think when we spoke to Yu Iri, he talked about the fact that there's an intolerance against immigration and refugees in Japan at the moment that he's feeling anyway. And I think this film was trying to address some of that. The fact that it's called the Immigration Elimination Ordinance, like again, it's one of those jokes where it's funny because of how ridiculous it sounds, but there is a more sincere and meaning behind it, at least in terms of what he's trying to say about the current state of things. The film is gorgeous. It's shot in the countryside. It's 1:33 by 1, I believe, in terms of the aspect ratio, and it works very well for a lot of the comedic shots of Miyu sort of training in her back garden to become a ninja, because of course, like, she's got no idea like what does a ninja even look like in 2021. But I think that's one of the questions that the film tries to answer. I can't remember, Panos, you right, she uses something as a blow dart.
Sorry,
I can't remember exactly what she uses, but it's ridiculous. Like, it's nothing that would be an actual piece of ninja like weaponry, but she's just kind of improvising on the way. Yeah, I mean, at least for me, the off-kilter comedy, the charming lead character, it all kind of worked. It was a great little film with a bigger message.
How was the action, though?
I don't know if you could call it action. I mean, it's very cathartic to see her sort of training up. I mean, she's a bit of a, despite sort of the political figures being portrayed as sort of morons, Miyu herself is a bit quirky. I mean, there are these scenes where she'll just randomly be dancing in her garden that don't seemingly have anything to do with anything, but they give you a better idea of what kind of character she is. And she seems quite introverted generally. So the idea of her being a sneaky ninja works in that way. The ending is great. for as ridiculous as it is, and I obviously won't spoil it, but for as ridiculous as it is, it works and it's satisfying in how Miyu has tried to become a ninja, and her training, if you can call it that, kind of pays off.
Okay. I think okay, but this also is a part of a bigger trend in Japanese cinema. A lot of independent directors, in particular, have started criticizing the government and its practices, both the immigration policy and, in general, how they conduct themselves in terms of I don't know, still promoting this whole thing that people need to have more children because China is going to overcome us, and there are things like that are happening right now. But at the same time, most of these directors seem to be afraid because of what happened to some of them, like Toyoda, for example. And it seems like the medium that they found to express these comments is through metaphor or allegories. I think it happens in Ninja Girls and a couple of other movies this year, like Suzuki, A Man in God's Land, which also does the same, using dry, deadpan humor to criticize policy. But I think it works in terms of entertainment, right, Tom? The comments are there, and the film is definitely funny, right?
That's the thing. You can totally take the film as being like a small-scale modern ninja movie on its own, and it works. But I think what elevated it for me was the fact that there are those, they're not subtle messages, but it works in the film's favor that they're not subtle, just because they add to the sort of dry humor of it all, but they also really hammer the message home. And I think, just picking up on what you said there, for as much as the governmental figures in this are portrayed as incompetent and kind of idiots, the fact is that what they're trying to do gets pushed through, which I think kind of rings true at the end of the day as well. Is like, you can sit there and as a spectator see that, there are these like buffoons in charge. How is what they're doing possibly going to work? How is it possibly going to go through? How can they get away with certain things? But they still do, and I thought bringing in a ninja to take down this kind of not a new idea of untouchable government. It's not new, like, at all. I just mean bringing an old sort of force for balancing things out into this modern setting. I thought was very original, and the way it was executed, again, for as seriously as it tries to take itself in terms of being what would a modern ninja look like, it has a lot of fun with it as well. So,
and also it's also worth noting that, okay, this is a small scale production. Obviously, it's low budget. But what always surprises me with the Japanese is that no matter how much money they have, the level of production is always good. Like how the cinematography and all the production values are always good, no matter how few money they have. I guess this is the thing here once more, right, Tom?
No, it's a gorgeous film, and again, that's one of the things that works in its favor. But I guess it's working within the limitations, and you see that with so many directors around the world. It's like when they're limited by resources, they tend to make some of their best stuff if they've got the chops for it, because you work with what you've got. You kind of think with films like this, if they'd been given an extreme budget, it might not work as well, because it might place too much focus in the wrong areas. There might have been more action, and it would take away from the point of the film and what really works about it, which is the satire, the comedy, and the fact that the lead character is very relatable. I think, just to mention it briefly, I think the fact that Miyu doesn't take action immediately, to kind of go down this ninja path and go against like the corrupt government, that kind of spoke to me a bit, because I was like, well, that's what you would do in real life. You wouldn't react normally. Like, not a lot of people react to when things are kind of unjust around them immediately, because you kind of hesitate or you're scared to. And the fact that she wasn't this kind of balls to walls hero straight away, I thought it worked for it a lot, which could have happened if he was given a huge budget and it was just make an action ninja movie.
Okay, I guess that's it. I think you have convinced us to, okay, I will watch the film again, but I think the people who have not watched it so far, I think you have convinced them to watch it now.
I can't wait to find a way to watch it again. Genuinely, no.
Okay. So I guess that's it for Ninja Girl. We're also gonna say goodbye to you, Tom. And,
Yes.
okay.
Yes. Goodbye.
Nice having you here once again, and hopefully we'll have you again for the next one.
No. See you all soon.
Okay. Bye, Tom.
Bye.
Okay, so for the next one, we have we have Rhythm talking about In Front of Your Face. Rhythm?
Yeah. So this is the second film from Hong Sang-soo this year, well, last year. And the first one was obviously Introduction, which didn't really click very well with the audience. So I approached this one slightly with caution, but that was misplaced. But because the film is thankfully fantastic. So In Front of Your Face is a film about a character called as Sangok. She used to be an actress back in the day, and she has since moved to the United States, and she's been living there for a number of years. And it's after many years she has returned to Korea, and she's crashing with her sister at her sister's place. So as with Hong Sang-soo films, this film is about meetings, about conversations. And the first meeting here happens between Sangok and her sister, and the two, they chat a bit at their house, and then they go out for a coffee. And then the two sisters are just sat there talking about the past, and how they were when they were kids, and what they used, and why the sister is very upset with Sangok for going to America for a number of years and not being in touch. And in these conversations, the two sisters find out how little they know about each other. And as the conversations go on, in between you get these monologues from Sangok, which have this sort of a melancholic undertone to them, and you're not really sure why she's feeling melancholic for a while, until she goes to her second meeting. So the second meeting is why she has come back to Korea in the first place after all these years. The second meeting is with a director. He had seen this actress's earlier works, and he's very eager to work with her. And so this conversation with the director happens at a cafe, and the two are just sat there eating food, having some alcohol, as it is usual with Hong Sang-soo films. And this is where we find out why the whole melancholic atmosphere around Sangok, that she's been carrying, why it has been there in the first place. And so that's where the film really clicks it up a notch, because this is where we find Hong Sang-soo at one of his most pensive, his most thoughtful. All throughout the film he has been talking about the past and the present and the future. So he's thinking a lot about time and the passage of time, and because of that he's also thinking about mortality and stuff like that. So that's when this discussion with the director happens. That's when the film becomes something else that we probably don't expect from a Hong Sang-soo film, because it's a discussion that is maybe not been ready to have so far, but now I think with the passage of age, the man himself is being getting older day by day. So it's something that maybe he's thinking about as well, and it works. And what's also interesting with this film is that the character of Sangok is played by an actress called Lee Hae-young. She is making her first appearance in a Hong Sang-soo film, and it kind of, the whole story feels like almost like a straight out of her life thing, because the actress used to be a big actress in the in the 80s and the 90s, and she has not worked for a number of years, and she has just suddenly come back with this Hong Sang-soo film and given this amazing performance in the Hong Sang-soo film. So it's this little conversations as usual with his films, but over here it's the nature of the conversations, that the directions that they take are amazing. It's very well written. The character is superbly written and acted equally well by Lee Hae-young. And this film is also where Hong Sang-soo is wearing a number of caps. He's not just the director and that, but he's also like the producer, the cinematographer, the music composer, and also the editor of the film. So all these, you can see that the man is evolving his craft in all of these different areas. But particularly with the cinematography, I do want to mention that, how in a Hong Sang-soo film, his identity is those zoom ins and zoom outs that he usually does. With this one, he still has a couple, but it's not as much. He's much more just focused on letting his actors talk to each other, let his characters express what they want to express to each other. And I think it works, not doing too much fancy stuff with his cinematography. He usually doesn't, but the zoom ins and zoom outs, don't feature that much. And the framing is something that I'd like to give special mention to. Like, there's a particular scene near the end where the director and the actress are both leaving the cafe that they were in, and they're going through this very narrow alley. And the framing is just beautifully done of just the two actors walking in under an umbrella through that narrow alley, and you see that from the back. And it's not something you usually get to see in a Hong Sang-soo film. But him being a cinematographer and doing this, I think that was quite impressive. Overall, I think this was a fantastic film from Hong Sang-soo, one of the best that he's done in recent years, easily for me. Probably among the best he's ever done. And by the time the film ends, there's this fantastic scene near the end with a voicemail on the actress's phone, which I think is easily one of the best scenes that you'll ever see in a Hong Sang-soo film.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you'd say that there is a reason for him to continue doing movies.
Definitely, yeah. I don't want the man to stop. There's every few years now and then he'll give you an introduction type of a film, but that's okay, because he's still got a lot in his canon to offer with films like In Front of Your Face. So I have no problem. The man can continue making 5, 6, 7 films a year, and I'm there for them.
What did you think about the acting? It's like,
Oh,
his wife is
fantastic.
not there, but
I have to say that this was the first time that I think it was the first time that I saw E.A. Young in a film, or if I did see her earlier, I've definitely forgotten. But this is one that leaves you with a very lasting impression. It's very subtle, very soft. The like I said, the melancholy that the character requires, I think she has portrayed it beautifully. And both in the conversations with her sister and with the director later on, you can see that she's hiding something underneath, some sorrow underneath her otherwise easy and outgoing composure. And when it eventually reveals why that is, it's such a delicate transition from that appeared the earlier appearance to this one. I think it was just a phenomenal performance from her, and not just her, but we also have Kwon Hye-yo, who is obviously a Hong Sang-soo regular. We've seen him in a number of films before in Hong Sang-soo works, and he is just his usual self, being fantastic and giving a great performance as usual. When he finds out the reason why the actress wanted to meet him, and he gives his proposal to her, and then he hears her answer or to that proposal. There's the director, the character that he plays of the director, he goes through this transition of this infatuated boy that who had seen the actress before, the director now, and just a fan of the actress. This whole journey that he goes through in that one conversation, I think it's well done. And Kwon Hye-yo, I think he gives yet another good performance in a Hong Sang-soo film.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so let's now go to the next film. Spencer, you're going to talk about Escape from Mogadishu.
Exactly. So one of the films of this year that really stuck out to me was Ryung Seo-won's Escape from Mogadishu, which is kind of like it's formulated as a political thriller, and it follows tensions in Somalia's capital during the 1991 civil war. So it's about the ambassador of North Korea as well as South Korea living in Mogadishu at the time, and the way that they kind of grapple with the world as well as each other. And there's these tensions that really escalate amongst the citizens of Mogadishu and its government. And it makes these two ambassadors and their families guilty by association. These citizens think that they are being mishandled by the government, as well as the ambassadors. And these ambassadors are basically on a run for their life. So despite the classic tensions between North Korea and South Korea, they have to sort of find a way to come together and escape. And they make a run to the Italian embassy. So yeah, that's a bit about the plot. I really enjoyed this one because I thought that for a political thriller, it was quite accessible. It was definitely heavier on the thriller side, but it was still, I thought, rather informative. I think that's something that political thrillers get criticized about a lot, is that they're not 100% accurate, or they don't completely detail every kind of moment in this time in history. And do I feel like Escape from Mogadishu was the most accurate movie out there? Not necessarily, but did it keep me kind of on the edge of my seat the entire time and interested? And did it make me want to do more research? It certainly did. And I think in that aspect, it was definitely very effective. And it was also a very ambitious movie. You kind of have to keep in mind that it's a movie that navigates two tensions. It's navigating the tension of the socio-political state of Mogadishu, Somalia's capital, as well as the mounting tensions between North Korea and South Korea, as represented by the families in the film. And I thought that because of that exploration, it was definitely a highly ambitious film, and for that reason I think it can be applauded. Yeah, I just thought it was really great. There was really some stellar acting in there. There was a really amazing car chase scene by the end of the movie that I thought was kind of like a classic thriller car chase scene. So yeah, I left it feeling really refreshed, and I really enjoyed it.
But did you think that at some points, though, that the film is too much pro South Korea and against North Korea?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard world to navigate, right? Like the classic tensions there. It definitely did feel more pro South Korea and arguably anti North Korea. But I thought that, you know, to release a movie out of South Korea that explores a friendship between these two nations is yet another kind of ambition on behalf of Ryu Seung-won. So I kind of had his respect in that regard.
Don, you've also seen the movie, right?
Me, yeah. I really like it. I kind of was a little torn off by the socio-political stuff because I'm not that familiar with a lot of it. I do like the friendship that evolves between the two agents. You know, the fact that they have to trust each other to survive. You know, they have their families there, which adds another stake to the mission. I was more into it with a couple of the action scenes. I thought those were incredibly well staged. The car chase is a classic. It's one of my favorites in the genre. I wouldn't be as high as you, but I would be very high on it. I do like it a lot. Maybe if I was as knowledgeable or as well versed into the political machinations that it delves into, I'd probably be as high on it as you are, because I can definitely see myself being like that if I was familiar with the with the topic and all of the different storylines that are involved in there. But as a pure popcorn action thriller, I like it better as that, with just it being kind of dragged down by the non-action stuff. But if I was as familiar with it as you, I'd probably be singing its praises just as highly as you are.
I think it might be the opposite, Don. If you really know the history of what happened, maybe you would be very perplexed about what's happening in the movie. But okay, I get what you mean. Rhythm?
Yeah. I think I do have to kind of agree with Don here. I think the political part, even though he tried to keep it at a bare minimum, I think my biggest issue was that it didn't address the big impact that it had on the Somalian people at that time. And in that sense, I think the film felt a little bit exploitative of the situation, that happened in this country. But apart from that, I think the film was very, very entertaining. It, like Spencer said, it kept me on the edge of my seat for a number of minutes in many sequences. And when it comes to action sequences with the budget that the Ryusin One commands, I think nobody can, get even close to him in Korean cinema, at least. They're so perfectly staged, they're so very well executed. The car chase sequences, obviously, both the guys mentioned it already, but I have to stress that it is just amazing. It is one of the best ones out there. And with the acting, I think Jo In Sang and Kim Yoon Suk particularly, and also Koo Kyo Won, who was the North Korean ambassador's right hand man. I think he is also a phenomenal actor. He's basically the man of the moment at the moment since the past couple of years. He's been in some really good TV, really been in really good films. So that guy also deserves special mention. I think that was Ryu Seung-wan got the best out of all of his actors, I think.
Also, the film was shot in Morocco. Okay, it would probably be impossible to be shot in Mogadishu, but okay, it's the same continent at least, so I guess you can call that original or genuine or accurate.
No, but you do also have to keep in mind that a lot of this was shot in the COVID era. So the production had to shut down for a while because in the early pandemic times, so despite all of that, what the film managed to achieve after it finished, it resumed production and finished it. You can't really say that, any sort of shortcomings have been left in that regard. The man has just gone all out despite the circumstances around him.
Okay. Spencer, anything else you would like to add about the film?
No, I think we basically covered it. I guess, yeah, as a final thought, I definitely echo Rhythm's sentiment in terms of the movie definitely not echoing the true struggles of Somalis at the time, and also kind of seeming a little heavy-handed on the pro-South Korea messaging. But as an action political thriller, I thought it was very enjoyable. So I guess I'll end on that note.
Okay, all right, that's great. So next film which I will be talking about is Limbo, probably the one that would be the best film of the year if Drive My Car was not so this year, or if a lot of people had better taste. But okay, what can you do? So I think Limbo is like a turn back to, I think, the golden age of Hong Kong cinema, but also still manages to be quite contemporary. Let's say there are elements. I thought that the film has elements of Seven, Kim Ki-duk's Pietà, and also the action is stylized just like some of Johnny To's best moments. Okay, it's a genuine cop horror thriller. You have a pretty boy, a dandy-looking policeman, Will Wren, who is paired with the veteran cop Chom Lau. Okay, the first one is trying to be, like, let's say, politically correct and do his job the proper way, but the second is the more experienced one, who knows how the world works and is almost eager at times to use violence to solve their cases. And okay, but soon Will realizes that the one who enjoys the respect of their colleagues is the veteran one, and but also that he has an agenda with car thief Wong To, a young girl who, in the midst of extreme physical punishment in the hands of Cham Lau, is also revealed as the perpetrator of an accident involving his family. And eventually, in an effort to atone, the girl offers to help the two in their research, but soon finds herself the target of revenge from the people she betrays, while the detective's violent attitude towards her never actually tones down. Eventually, the three of them find themselves lost in the labyrinth of Hong Kong slums, and the killer continues killing people, and no one seems to be safe from his mania. Okay, as I said, this is a genuine cop horror thriller. You have the dynamics of the two different cops, which always works in those kind of movies. And you have the experienced lowlife and the idealistic rookie, with their class being one of the main attractions of the narrative. And also he creates a tension between the two that carries the film from beginning to end. And also is channeled to the girl, which, okay, the fact is that advocates of Me Too will not like this film because the punishment the girl receives is like non-stop and unfair, you can say, after a point. But okay, this is how Hong Kong movies used to be, and I guess this is what the director wanted to do. Apart from that, the film is black and white, but you don't feel like it's in monochrome. The action is pretty colorful, and this labyrinth aspect works extremely well for the film. The characters are getting lost all over the place, while danger seems to be lurking in every corner. And there are a lot of mannequins around that give like an exploitation kind of cult essence to the film. Lam Katunge's Sam Lau is great. The way he portrays despair, obsession to exact revenge, and the bad cop attitude is rather intriguing. But okay, the one who definitely steals the show, however, is Yu Cha, who's, I don't know how she managed to do this, all the things that she did. Her part is really difficult. She gets punished so much, but she goes through, and she's really impressive to watch every time she appears on screen. For me, it's one of the best films of the year. Also, the soundtrack by Kenji Kawai is also great. There are not many things that you can know that are bad in the film, apart maybe, okay, maybe it's overly violent, but again, this is part of its appeal. Okay, Don, you've seen the film?
No, this was one that I wanted to get to, but I didn't have the time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Really?
this was the last one I wanted to get to, so unfortunately.
Okay. Rith, you watched it?
I did see it, and it ended up being my favorite film of the year. I loved it to bits. Everything, I agree with everything you mentioned in here. The whole atmosphere, the cinematography, it's fantastic. But I have to give it up for Lucia, who has given one hell of a performance here. I was blown away with what she's done in this film. She has literally thrown herself in the film and in her performance. I cannot think of a better performance, maybe in the last maybe 3 years, that was better than this one, because she was fabulous. Thankfully, she was recognized by the Hong Kong Film Critics Association just today or yesterday, where she was awarded Best Actress, and I think nobody deserved it more than her. In fact, Limbo also received the Best Film in the same award ceremony. So, that's fantastic. But yeah, I don't think as good as Drive My Car was, it did not pip this one to my best film this year. It was just it blew me away with everything that it did, and it did every damn thing so right for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. I guess no one else has seen Limbo. Adriana, you've seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it at the Far East Film Festival in Udine, and it was great. I really enjoyed it. It is one of my favorite film of the year. Yeah, I love the atmosphere, the so dark, and the photography, the music, everything, and also it was a bit like watching, as you said, a film from the golden era of Hong Kong cinema. And also, I like very much Gordon Lamb, and yeah, it's a great actor, and he also had an amazing year. You know, he was in a few films in 2021, and yeah, I also enjoyed him in Hand Rolled Cigarettes in the same festival. Yeah, great. I love him.
Did you feel that it was misogynist at times, the film?
No, it didn't annoy me, to be honest. In the whole, yeah.
Okay. I guess that's good. Okay, we've skipped the riff of political correctness, so I guess we're good. Okay, and since we started with violent films, let's go to the next one. Don will talk about The Sadness, probably the most violent film of the year.
Yeah. So this is from director Rob Yabaz from Taiwan. Concerns a couple who are going about their normal day. The boyfriend is dropping his girlfriend off at work and carries on his day. He's about to order breakfast when he discovers something mysterious about the neighbor who he had spied the neighbor earlier doing something weird, but he becomes increasingly concerned about the fact that in the middle of the restaurant, she suddenly starts attacking the various customers in the shop. And it soon becomes apparent that there's a mysterious virus running throughout the city, turning everyone into the most violent, depraved, homicidal maniacs known to man. No remorse, no let up, just absolute depravity, cruelty, barbarian behavior, whatever you want. And it just becomes a race against time to get out of the city and escape from the people that are either going to kill them or turn them into various beings like they are. This was just a wet dream of mine come true. To be as depraved as the film is, this was a wet dream come true. I mean, this is ultra splatter on a level that a few films have topped. But it's not only as cruel and graphic as you could imagine, but it's also fun. It's mean-spirited, but it's never vicious. You know, limbs are snapped off, people get their skin ripped and torn to pieces, you know, people are beaten, maimed, and brutalized, but it's never like averturized gross. It's just comical popcorn fodder splatter. So it keeps you invested, but it's never like shocking or revolting to a degree that you want to turn it off. It's just it reminds me a lot of a film called Dead Alive, where the gore and the splatter is turned up to such a comical standard that it does add a comedic edge, even though the tone is vicious. So you still stay invested and you still stay involved in what's going on. On top of all of that, you have a topical storyline involving this virus and people, you know, coming out for the first time, trying to, you know, get their lives back together, you know, the new normal, whatever term you want to use. They try to portray that as you know, the starting point of the virus at the very beginning of the film. There's, you know, a fantastic storyline involving the boyfriend trying to, you know, rescue his girlfriend. You know, he made a promise to never leave her side, and he spends the entire movie doing everything he can to get to her and get to safety. You know, there's a lot of suspense and tension there. The attacks are just nonstop. It would probably be classified most likely under a zombie film. Mm-hmm. So you can, you know, expect those kinds of horde scenes of just, you know, dozens and dozens of people running after you, tearing people to pieces. Yeah, this was just an absolute blast, and I was invested in this the entire way through. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was no contest for me. This was far and away, like, no discussion, no debate, a complete gulf between this and then every other film I watched for the year. So okay. This was an easy choice for me.
Okay. Let's hope the people who release the film will hear this discussion. I'm sure they were going to get you recording something about the film. Okay, Spencer?
totally agree with everything Don just said. I really loved this movie. I'm also very much into the ultra splatter kind of stuff, and this movie just kept on finding ways to surprise me. Every time I thought I had seen it all, they would do the most outlandish thing. And I think that, there's definitely something to be said about a movie that is extremely gory, but like Don was saying, not mean-spirited per se, and kind of fun. There's moments of dark humor. The zombies are terrifying. There's a huge distinction to make in terms of them being zombies, but they're also sadists. They're sadistic zombies, and they don't only thrive off of eating people, but they thrive off of hurting people, which just makes for such a terrifying journey. And I also think it's just a great metaphor for COVID fatigue. The way the movie starts off, they're talking about, oh, I find there's a newscast, and the people on the TV are saying, I think it's funny that the virus is showing up right at the start of a new election campaign, and it's you kind of get the sense that people are just over it, and that has allowed for the virus to mutate and harm other people. So I think it's a shocking metaphor as well, and I think that is quite powerful.
Mm-hmm. Adam, did you watch this one?
Yeah, I did watch it. I'm a huge fan of it. And I do have to say, when it comes to like extreme film, there's very much a fine line between entertainment and just being gross. And this film did very good at being just consistently entertaining, and over the top. Again, as extreme as it gets, and everyone mentioned it does have that comedic edge to it, which makes it more palatable. Even in such scenes, he also knew kind of when not to go all the way, such as the eye scene, I'll just say, which I'm sure people remember.
Yeah.
If he had gone that extra bit and shot in another way, it could easily have kind of pushed the film into different territory. So I think the balance that the director had throughout it was really impressive, and kind of, being extreme but not getting to the point where it's becomes too gross. So it was a really fun film. I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Rhythm? Rhythm, can you hear us?
I think it froze there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But
okay, I guess until he comes back. Okay, I also found the level of violence here it's like one that you usually meet in comics, like in manga or stuff like that. But the whole thing is not exactly comic. I mean, it is kind of looks something out of a comic book pages, but at the same time, it's more serious than that. He doesn't mock his material. The whole thing is serious, actually. And also for me, it was really interesting that the character of the old guy, who is one of the worst in the film. So that was okay. I guess that was kind of funny. Okay, I think Rhythm is out. Rhythm, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, what did you want to say?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that unlike Don and Spencer, I'm not really too big on splatter films. But despite that, I had a great time with The Sadness. Obviously was extremely gory, extremely violent. But despite that, the humor, I think, was fantastic. Like there's one scene where the lead actress takes the other girl into the hospital. And obviously the girl has been stabbed in the eye. And the nurse goes, "Oh, I think you need to have an MRI because you might have a concussion." She's got a hole where her eye is supposed to be. A concussion is the least of her problems. This is some of these little things I think that was so funny, and that kept me hooked right through the very end in this one.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I watched it too, and I really enjoyed it. It's not as a Rhythm. I'm not a big watcher of splatter movies, but I really enjoy it. Yeah, it was fun. There are lots of pearls of fun disseminated through the film, and I really enjoyed it. It's got a bit of a funny pace sometimes, but sometimes it really works. I really enjoyed like for example at the beginning when she's in the underground carriage, and it seems that nothing happened, and you there like, but then it really creates a tension for what is to come, you know, and really enjoyed it. And the man on the tube is really, it will remain memorable, I think, for a while.
Definitely.
With his umbrella and yeah.
Yes. So I guess we can say that The Sadness is a splatter film for everybody. That's like a very
For the
rare thing to
family.
happen. Yeah.
For the whole family.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, so the next film is a bit less. Okay, sorry. Okay, we're going to say goodbye to Spencer, who needs to go. So, Spencer, thank you very much for being here. We hope we have you again in the next ones.
Thank you very much. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Okay, bye. So, next film, Adriana, Barbarian Invasion. Despite, okay, we'll have a switch because, okay, Barbarian Invasion is actually less violent and more dramatic than The Sadness. So, which in terms of titles is like strange, but okay.
Yeah, okay. So one of my favorite films of the year is Barbarian Invasion of the Malaysian director Tan Chui Mui. And okay, the film follows Moon Lee, which is played by the director herself, and she's is a well-respected actress. She's taken a few years off her career because she had a child and a painful divorce, and she's exhausted. And we see her traveling to a location on the coast to meet director friend Roger, who has directed before, and this director Roger has in mind as his next film, and he want to do like a sort of a Southeast Asian version of the Bourne Identity, so a sort of do your own stunt kind of action movie, and she want Moon to be the protagonist, and so for Moon is a great chance for a comeback, and so she start to this very hard physical training with a local martial art team with the Sifu master law, and her clumsy body slowly start to blossom into a kick-ass fighting machine. And but one day the director Roger breaks the bad news, and so because the financer of the movie want him to cast as a male lead a box office sensation, a box office puller, and this actor happened to be Moon's ex-husband. So this proposal is non-negotiable, and Moon can stand the idea of a collaboration with her ex-husband, and so she decided to leave. But something dramatic happened, and the movie takes a whole different direction, and I stop here.
Okay.
So the reason why I like this film very much is one, and is that I like very much the fact that although it's a very personal film for the director, is her intimate journey. She actually unashamedly admits that she made this film to address her own issue. But despite this, she managed to do a film that is very universal, and she portrays a very specific struggle of women in a totally unseen before way, creating an unpredictable genre fluid film. Meta film, I would say, because I will explain later. so the protagonist is trying to reclaim her own body after which she's lost control over as a consequences of motherhood. And in fact, the barbarian of the title is a child that invaded her life. And there is something inevitable happen when you have a child. There is a subversion of roles that the society imposed, because it's the child that becomes the only thing that defines you. And so Moon, the protagonist of the film, but also the director, want to fight and reverse this thing. And so but I want to say that this is not a mumsy film as it could sound. It's not at all by any means. It's a kick-ass thriller with a twist. So that's why I really enjoyed it. And I also love very much sorry, I love very much the script, which is very intriguing and multi-layered. And the script is also from Tan Chui Mui, and because she has shaped the protagonist of the film on her own experience. She had the same sort of real life experience. She had a break on her career. After having a child, she lost control over her body, and so there is this overlapping. And also in the film, the protagonist and the protagonist of the film in a film that she's going to play start to blur at some point. So there are these three levels, the director, the protagonist, and the character of the film, the overlaps, and everything is very enriched by the life experience of the director, so her emotional background. And in all this, she also played the part of the protagonist, which is sort of inevitable if you think, because because of all this overlapping and similar stories, you wouldn't imagine anyone else doing, interpreting the protagonist. And but another point, the film is really funny as well. I mean, there is a sense of humor and a sense of fun in the film along the whole film, and there are lots of funny nods to other films. There are some mention of Aung San Suu movies, and there are some mention of like reference to Fight Club. There is also a very funny dilemma when a monk asks to choose the red pill or the blue pill, and it's in a sort of celebration of personal choices versus destiny, and also the importance of having a laugh in life. In an interview to the director, she told us that they have a great laugh doing this film, and they were joking all the time, and it actually oozes this humor. And also there are also some decent martial arts fights in the film. The director grew up watching wuxia and martial arts TV series, and so there is this theme of the Bourne identity. So they wanted to use the same training that they've been used for the Bourne identity. There is the Krav Maga, I think it's called, the martial art. But in the end, they appointed James Lee as as an action director, and also he play as well the role of the Sifu Master Law, and that Lee is particularly brilliant for the sense of humor that he's injecting this Master Law, because he's a brutal Sifu man who talks very solemnly like a Bruce Lee, but he's also quite funny for the same reason. He sort of exaggerated this aspect. So yeah, these are the reason why I like this film very much. It was unpredictable and fun, and again, you know, talk about something in an unexpected way.
I think it was very interesting, the whole fact that okay, as she mentioned to the interviews she had with you and Lucas and Maya, that they didn't have a script for the movie, and essentially the script is how they managed to get a script. But then the script that they managed to get is a film about a film. So these three layers that are there, it's kind of funny, and it's very meta on like three levels, which is like very strange. And also I really like this Shifu guy, who is both wise but overly violent at the same time. Like he's brutal to her, like he punches her in the face all the time for no apparent reason, to teach a lesson, which is like kind of ironic to the martial arts movies of the past, maybe.
There is a very funny bit when he said, I can't really remember exactly, but he said something like that there was a kind of training, and they had to punch and kick each other, sort of battle royale style, and so they start to punch each other with all sorts of things, foldable chairs and stuff, and baseball bats, and it's really funny because it's so absurd and violent, but completely plain. Very funny.
And also it was funny the fact that essentially the barbarian in the title is her actual child, who is referring to like the invasion of the child, what it did to her as a person. Then she communicated in the film, which is okay, self-deprecating, and a great sense of humor. I think she has a great sense of humor in general.
She the child of the protagonist in the film is a tantrumy, spoiled little brat, and very annoying. And she said that she had thought about using her own child in the role, but it was basically unmanageable. So I can imagine it would have been a mess.
Okay. Well, I guess that's it for Barbarian Invasion. So let's proceed to the last movie of the night, Adam, Cosmetic DNA.
I have Kenya Okuba's Cosmetic DNA. The plot, it's one of those films that it's more about kind of the tangents and the aesthetic, but to give a rough idea of the plot, a young girl named Ayaka is college student. She's obsessed with makeup and social media, which gets her in contact with this young filmmaker who ends up just exploiting her, and it sends her into deep depression. And during this time, she meets two other women, also kind of fed up with just men and culture in general, and they end up getting revenge. They find out that blood is the best cosmetic to use. One of them is a scientist that's developing a pill that makes it so that women can breed with women, and it's made using like rat guts. I call it like a rat soup. So it's kind of 2 hours of absurdity, and it's kind of all over the place. But the major appeal for me, and just coming from my own taste, it kind of had that that energy of not sure if anyone's familiar with Greg Araki or John Moritsugu, and even to a degree like Sogo Ishii, his early films, where there's just a sense of like youthful counterculture and excitement, and just kind of making a film entirely on your own terms. Very like punk DIY aesthetic, which I just absolutely love. And the transitions throughout it's like a mix of, very indulgent film. It's a mix of trash and commercialism. They'll have one scene where they're slitting the throat of someone and draining their blood, and then it will cut to a short sequence that almost seems like a commercial where they're at a mall laughing and consuming products, and you even have like little logos in the corner and pop music playing. It was just a really eccentric mix of things, but it just, to me, it was very exciting and very fun. It's the most fun I had with a movie this year. And it reminded me of the type of film that I don't feel comes along often. Because even Sogo Ishii, you look at his earlier stuff compared to his later stuff, like the kind of the energy and the flow definitely changed. So it's very much a debuting filmmaker doing something completely unique to him. That will probably change as time goes on and they mature. But I just like that kind of aesthetic and style that comes from Prince. Yeah.
Would you say that at some point it's like so bad it's good because like the acting in particular is pretty bad, you know?
Yeah, you know, it definitely, like, it does have, and when I was comparing it, like Greg Araki, like all those actors, even John Waters to an extent, it does get so bad that it is good, but it also feels somewhat purposeful. Like it's never feels like they don't know what they're doing necessarily. Like it's bad because it's incompetent. They're kind of self-aware that what they're making is kind of trashy and over the top. Yeah. But there definitely is some humor from how bad it can get, but I do feel it's purposeful is what I came up with. Yeah.
Okay. Rhythm?
Yeah. Sadly, this is one that did not click for me at all. You know, I did like the aesthetics of it. You know, the cinematography was really well done. You know, the colors popped. The music was fantastic. You know, it had a bit of everything. You had EDM in it. You had Pharrell in it. You know, so it had a lot going for it visually and audibly. But just the narrative, I think it was all over the place for me. The thing that annoyed me the most was that it did try to make some points come across, you know, but the handling of it was just, I don't want to call it amateurish because, you know, it's a well-made film in that sense, but it's just, it just felt all over the place. And you can clearly see that, you know, this cast and the crew are not taking the whole things, you know, it's not that they're not taking it seriously, but, you know, they're having a good time with it. But when you're trying to make some points come across, I'm not sure if that's the right treatment for it. And it did, to be fair, have some good points that it wanted to bring across. But the way that they came forth just didn't land successfully for me. The acting as well, like you said, you know, very amateurish. And it just, I'm not sure if the actors knew where they were going with it. Neither did the director. Or maybe it was purposefully that way. But, you know, as a whole package, I think outside of the cinematography and the music, everything just felt really haphazard and all over the place for me. Also, I have to particularly mention that the subtitles on this were probably the most annoying subtitles that I've ever read in a film because of the way that they were formatted. It's just a weird font and just so far spaced out that, you know, I was having a hard time reading the whole thing throughout.
Yeah, that was for the festival, so hopefully that's something that if it does get a proper release, it is kind of addressed.
Yeah,
but
I would hope
for
so.
me, I understand what you mean, where the actors seemed like they were having fun, but that kind of added to the appeal of it to me. Again, speaking back to like early Sogo Ichi, like Crazy Thunder Road, or even
right.
First City, it feels like a movie where everyone's just having fun and being immersed in its culture, and that's something that really drew me into it. And that's why I'm also hesitant to say that it was like technically bad acting, as I feel it was just kind of capturing the atmosphere that they were trying to go for.
I think with the male actors specifically, it was almost as if they had been told to ham it up as much as they can. Because obviously the male characters in this film don't come across that well, or in a good light at least. So, you know, I think that must have definitely been on purpose with the male actors to be purposefully bad or whatever. But yeah, with the female actresses, I think it was it was a bit less. I have to be a bit less forgiving in that regard, because they were the backbone of the whole thing, going forward. And the acting, I think, lacking, at least for a couple of them, it felt like it was really lacking for me.
Well, I guess it's one of those films that for many the cast and crew had more fun than the audience in this one, I guess. Sometimes. Yeah.
But I understand that there's certainly a target audience for this film. And if this film finds it, like with Adam, I think it would be one of the best experiences they have that year. But I don't think I was in that target audience whatsoever, and that's why it didn't quite click for me.
You need to embrace the chaos in order to like this film.
That is true.
To enjoy mess a bit. Adam, you wanted to add something?
No, I think Adriana saw this as well too. I'm surprised. I thought only Rhythm and I had seen it, but I'd love to hear her thoughts if she has any on the.
Yeah, I've seen it, and I have to say that I thought I enjoyed it. I mean, I understand what Rhythm said, and it's all true. But in the whole thing, it sort of worked for me. I'm not the target audience of that film, I guess, but it did work for me with all as a whole. I had fun. A touch long, if you ask me.
That's true. 2 hours was a bit of a stretch for the film. They could definitely have cut it down quite a bit, but
okay. Well,
it was fresh. I had a sort of freshness in that.
Definitely.
Yeah, which is something I'm always looking for in film, and something I'm always instantly drawn. So it really resonated to me, but at the same time, I understand. One of those films that someone said they hated it, I wouldn't argue them on it necessarily.
Well, we're not that kind of people,
No.
Not yet, at least. Okay, let's get into our 50s and we can discuss again. Okay. Well, I guess that's it. That's the first AMP talks of the year. If you like this session, please subscribe to our channel, because we're gonna keep doing them, and hopefully someone will watch at some point. And okay, from all the group, I guess, thank you very much for being here, and see you most probably next week. So bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.